And we can just dance the night away until we get no more. I'll shake all the hurt away so you can feel and forget who you used to be. For just tonight, could you just dance, dance the night away?
Why is it that the more we try to eat better, the more we think about food? Because we start to diet just because we want to feel maybe more in control of how we're eating. We want to try to eat better, and somehow we end up thinking about food all day long, or it becomes all consuming. Or we try not to think about food to eat less, only to think about food more. And that's not a failure. That's just how the brain works when we're trying to diet and when we're trying to restrict. So most people believe that if we just had more discipline, if we just had more willpower, we wouldn't be so obsessed with food, or we could make better choices if we just had more willpower. But what if this obsession is being caused by the very thing that we think is going to fix it, right? We think the restriction is going to fix our food issues. And food obsession isn't a personal flaw, right? It's a predictable response to restriction. And I think that that's really important to understand that the food obsession, it's nothing personal to you. It's literally a predictable response to restriction. So we can ask what counts as dieting or really even what counts as restriction, right? Like calorie counting, cutting out huge food groups, maybe trying to eat clean, skipping meals, kind of moralizing food as good or bad, even mental restriction. So if your eating involves control or rules or restriction, your brain is going to see it that way. And this is how dieting triggers food obsession, right? It's this biological response because your body thinks it's starving. Your body doesn't know the difference between dieting and just restriction or not that we don't have enough food, a scarcity of food. So your body doesn't necessarily know that you're on a diet, but it's sensing restriction. And the response may be increased hunger hormones, more thoughts about food, and stronger cravings because if they think there's a scarcity, we're wired to survive. We're trying to stay alive. So your brain is going to, in a sense, turn up the volume about food so that we seek food out more, so that we live, basically. Because when something is limited or you restrict it, it becomes maybe more desirable. So the second you say you can't have something, you think about it more and you want it more. And so food becomes mentally more important, right? We think about food more. The food thoughts are more present. It's important for our survival, so the brain is going to increase the focus on that. And there's this almost forbidden food effect where if we label food as bad or off limits, it almost creates like a preoccupation around food or an urgency when we are around that food because it's like if we're never supposed to have it and we do get it, we need to eat as much of it as fast as we can because who knows the next time we're going to allow this for ourselves. So what happens is that restriction makes food feel a lot more powerful than it actually is because we're almost putting food up on this pedestal of what we can't eat. And so it becomes more desirable. It becomes more urgent to eat it. And in a way, we are doing that to ourselves by that restriction. And when we're preoccupied with food, which kind of is included in this diet cycle, the food noise that we have, there are these almost constant thoughts of what should I eat? How much did I eat? How many calories am I at? How many calories do I have left? Did I work out today? Does that mean I get more calories? Maybe I should try to eat less because then my weight loss would maybe be faster, right? We have all of these thoughts that maybe even like as soon as this meal is done, we're already worried about what the next meal is going to be, right? And this is, again, a predictable response to restriction, right? This isn't random. This is literally your brain trying to track this resource that we are limiting for ourselves. So if we think about the whole diet cycle, we start dieting, right? And maybe we feel really, I mean, we probably feel really in control. We feel really Like, we got this, we're going to start strong, we're really motivated, right? We have all of those kind of, all that motivation when we start dieting, and we feel like we're in control. But then as that goes on, because of that restriction, the food thoughts naturally increase, right? Cravings naturally increase. We start thinking about food, maybe even having this food seeking behavior. And maybe we accidentally break a rule and then we overeat. And then we kind of feel like maybe we feel guilty. And in a way, maybe we double down on eating, or we kind of have that all or nothing thinking where if I already ate a little bit over my calories, now I'm just going to completely go way overboard because I'm already over my calories. So maybe I'll start tomorrow. And it's just kind of this all or nothing thinking of I'm either dieting and restricting and going really, really intense towards this goal, or I'm overeating and I'm completely doing um whatever whatever I want with eating. But then we feel guilty and we feel bad and we feel like a failure. So then we repeat that, right? And we go back to the restriction because we think restriction is the answer for us. We think that is the solution. And really, like the obsession part of food, it's not the problem, but it's just a natural part of this cycle. And I think that it can feel so personal, or we can blame ourselves so much because we internalize it, or we've been taught, the diet industry has taught that, you know, the product isn't the problem, you're the problem, right? When that's just not true. Like, it's not about a lack of willpower. It's not that something is wrong with you, but that is what we believe. We believe it's about willpower. We believe that it's our fault, that something is wrong with us because these diets don't work. And again, this isn't a personal failure. You not having willpower because your body is wired to survive is not a personal failure. I would say that is what is right about you. That is what is good about you. Your body is designed to want to survive. That is a really positive quality, I think. And so I think we need to reframe that we're not becoming obsessed with food. Our body is literally trying to survive in scarcity. So, what actually reduces food obsession is first consistent and adequate eating, right? So, having regular meals, eating enough food, right? If we're adequately fueling ourselves, we don't have to be seeking food all the time and constantly thinking of food because there's this scarcity around food. Getting rid of food rules, right? Not having food listed as good or bad. The permission that we have, the permission that we give ourselves to eat what we like and what we want and in amounts that feel good to us, that reduces urgency. And rebuilding trust with your body. So listening to how your body feels instead of trying to control it. And over time, food loses its intensity, or it loses its power because it isn't this thing that we can't have, that we want, that we're going this back and forth with. For some reflection questions that we could ask ourselves is, am I physically or mentally restricting right now? Do I have any foods that are off limits to me, or I tell myself I can't have? What happens when I try to control my eating more? If I try to restrict more, what happens? Be curious about what happens for yourself. And what would it look like to trust my body a little bit more today? So, I just want to end by saying that if you feel obsessed with food, like that makes sense, right? And dieting doesn't fix food obsession, it literally creates it. It's part of the cycle. It's a normal part of the cycle that keeps us stuck, that keeps us buying products, that keep us a customer, right? And when we remove restriction, our brain doesn't need to be focusing on food all the time because that scarcity isn't there. And this is the work that I feel really passionately about. This is the work that I do when I coach people. This is what I think that a lot of people need to hear because so many of us blame ourselves. So many of us feel like there's no way out of this cycle. And I know that there is a way out of this cycle. We don't have to live in this constant back and forth of restriction and overeating and having our whole day spent thinking about food, right? We have so much more that we can offer to the world than than that. I truly believe that. And so if this video resonates with you, I would love to have you check out my website, watch further videos, ask questions. So if you're exhausted from constantly thinking about food and your body, you're definitely not alone and you don't have to stay stuck here. And I help women find peace with food so that they can get their life back and get out of this cycle.